it's kind of like a short topic to talk about this next topic, but I do want to talk about it because it is a problem. Should the NFL completely get rid of turf fields?
Absolutely. 100%. We actually spoke about this, I believe, in week one or week three of the podcast. I think it's completely idiotic that it hasn't been mandated across the league yet because there is a direct correlation in studies that turf causes more Achilles and ACL injuries. That's not opinion, it's fact at this point.
Yeah,
Turf has much less give because you're basically running and cutting on concrete. And these players nowadays are their agility is out of this world, which means more cuts, which means more speed, which means more athletic jumping ability. And then in turn, you go onto turf, it's just a bad recipe. But the NFL won't do it because of money.
yeah, which it sucks, but the reason why I'm bringing this topic up because after watching Thursday night's game, the Giants vs Cowboys, which is
Mm.
I'm very happy though because the Giants made that game close against a Cowboy team that should demolish them. That's a different story. But seeing like Micah Parsons, he went down with a leg injury. I think it was
Yep.
a knee injury, and then
High ankle sprain.
high ankle sprain. And then Demarcus Lawrence, he went down with the ankle injury too.
Yep, he got put on the IR just this past couple of days.
And Zach Martin got hurt. He came back in the game. A bunch
Yep.
of players got hurt in that game, and that's MetLife Field, which is a big fucking stadium and brings in a lot of people, holds 80,000 people. I
Yep.
I think like at some point the NFL has to be like, all right, get rid of turf fields. The only stadiums that should have turf fields are domes.
I don't even think Dome should.
Well, how
Look,
are you going to
you
maintain it, Dean?
Derek, these are multi-million dollar franchises. Some of them are in the billions. Dallas, for one, for example. You're telling me these owners don't have like a million or two to properly pay landscapers in order to make sure that the grass is completely ready to go? Dome or no dome, you can definitely sustain a grass field with the right equipment, with the right preparation, especially with the right amount of money. These teams are making money hand over fist. They can afford to do this,
Yeah,
but they're being cheap.
I do think they are being cheap, but like I feel like the only time like say like you're playing in Minnesota and say if it's like cold outside or some shit like that. It's cold outside the stadium and obviously
Mm-hmm.
it's how like I don't it's going to be harder to maintain a regular grass field in the wintertime in Minnesota.
Derek, but look, it's very simple. They have facilities underneath the field, even turf fields that allow them to maintain it. It wouldn't be too much different with grass. Look at hockey, for example, right? They're inside stadiums every single day, but somehow the ice doesn't melt.
You're right.
It's
You're right.
because they have the preparations for it. They put the money into it. They have these facilities underneath the ice, or in this case, underneath the fields, in order to completely and utterly sustain this.
Also, Canada is very smart. The people who run the NHL are fucking very smart
Well, they're
individuals.
very intelligent because they care about their league.
I,
A lot of leagues, and I'm not gonna say the NFL doesn't care about their league because they do in some instances, but a lot of times the NFL takes precedent in profits rather than, for example, health of players or rather than, for example, viewership numbers. Like we were talking about this week one, for example. Who gives a shit about a game played in Sao Paulo? You know who cares? The NFL because they made money and endorsement deals on it.
that's also another problem. Like you're if you go out to London, that's gonna be a fucking turf field. That's all they have. They don't have fucking grass fields like that Wembley Stadium, wherever the fuck they play at, which is getting played the Jets Vikings this week.
Yep.
That's in Wembley Stadium.
Yep.
That's gonna be fucking a shit. I feel like that's gonna be like 4 injuries in that game. Hopefully, it's none of my
Yeah.
fantasy players, but like there's gonna be a bunch of injuries because turf field like like even in MetLife, you could see Aaron Rodgers as well. I see it. I feel like he's restricting himself running outside the pocket because he's afraid of his Achilles, like just
Look,
gonna rip off.
he's also 40.
Yeah, but he
The-
still is able to run, Dean.
my my main thing with the NFL is You should absolutely be having grass fields just for the injury purposes alone. And you know what? They're cheap fucks because the best example here is for people who don't know, the FIFA World Cup is coming to MetLife Stadium in the United States in 2026. In order to have the World Cup played at MetLife Stadium, FIFA demanded that grass fields be implemented for the soccer games.
I did not know that.
No, like it. These are just simple things that even soccer players around the world understand. Major soccer players, Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi, Neymar, they will not play on turf fields because they know what it does to you. And clearly, there's enough money involved where it doesn't matter. You can go out there and put a grass field, and you just have to pay for it to be maintained.
It's just like obviously like you were saying like the money and like the Roger Goodell and like owners being like greedy and shit, like not spending the money. But I just don't see like why you wouldn't protect your players because it's you're losing. How I see it, you're losing money by not doing this.
Clearly, they aren't.
Yeah,
I'd be curious to see how viewership is looking so far this year, but I'd speculate that viewership is on par, if not a little bit more than last year, regardless of offense being down, regardless of injuries. I think it's going to have to take the NFLPA to get involved and for them to say our players aren't playing on turf field. Then you can actually start to have those meaningful conversations between the NFL and the NFLPA because the NFLPA just don't put your players out there on turf fields then the NFL and their owners are going to be forced to put out grass fields.
yeah, but first, I don't know what it is. Like I don't see why the NFLP hasn't done that because there's so many like people like Micah Parsons, who else? Nick Bosa, Christian McCaffrey, who spoke out on this. Big players.
We need to get rid of turf altogether. And I don't want to hear it like it's an indoor stadium. They make UV lights. You can go grass inside. There's freaking pot barns right down the street that are growing mountains of fucking pot. We can grow grass indoors, all right? I don't want to hear this nonsense.
And I'm surprised like the NFL doesn't see like, oh, these are pretty much face plants of the NFL, and they're not doing anything about it.
Clearly, it's beyond what we've seen in the public eye. Clearly, look, I wouldn't doubt that these sort of negotiations and discussions haven't happened behind closed doors, but there must be some reason or another that they're not doing it. And my educational guess is it involves money.
It's a pretty good educational guess.
I think so as well.
I agree with you. It is most likely money, but I also think that it's also like I feel like it's because technically isn't it, it's not up to Roger Goodell. Like he could make the decision to like make it for every stadium, but it's also up to the owners because they own their team, they own the stadium.
Of course.
So I feel like that if they have like, in order for like this to get fixed, either obviously the NFLPA or Roger Goodell needs to have like a league meeting about this. But hey, I hope it changes in the coming years. Obviously, it's not gonna happen next year. I think it'll hopefully like by the World Cup, which is in 20. What is it? 2020.
2026.
2026. I think by the World Cup, it'll be changed. That's me.
We can only hope.
Yep. We only hope.